Good morning, everyone. I'm Ted with Foxhole Homes. Today's class is going to be a little bit different than some of the ones that we've had in the past where we were talking about a really small task. This morning, we're going to actually be talking about how to lay out an entire wall in relationship to a building. So there's going to be a few more pieces to that than usual. After we kind of get that part done, we'll divide up into some different work crews today. Some of us will be working on a tire wall, some of us will be working on bottle walls, some of us will be doing pack out, some of us will be working on the roof. So we've got a good crew here today. We should be able to divide up into a bunch of different pieces, but we're gonna first talk about how to lay out a tire wall and get going on that. And so when you lay out a building, typically, you've got to make sure that everything is perfectly square. There's all kinds of stuff going on. But when you're working with tires and that kind of stuff, how important is it, do you think, that everything be absolutely perfectly square? Yeah, not a whole lot, because we're dealing with some materials that have some flexibility to it. Now, are there places in a build like this that have to be absolutely square? Yes, the roof, right? If you get the framing off on the roof, your plywood doesn't fit. That's a big deal, right? But on a lot of the rest of this, we have some wiggle room, we have some flexibility. And so don't think that what we're doing here translates perfectly into laying out a conventionally framed home, because it won't. But we'll walk through what's going on here. So what we're going to lay out right now is a wall that is going to hold up part of the greenhouse. So we're going to have greenhouse hoops that are coming off this front piece of framing down to about 6 feet out from there and about 7 feet down from there. So it'll probably be 2, maybe 3 courses of tires down here to hold up that greenhouse wall. And so what we did to lay that out is the first thing that we did is come with a plumb line. Everybody know what a plumb line is, right? Came with a plumb line, and I've got one like hooked up to my string line, but basically it allows you, if you just hang it from the top and let it go still, it will give you a perfectly straight line down from above, like super simple. So we went off of that face, put a mark down here on the ground, and then we measured out 5.5 feet so that we could have, because we'll need a little bit of room to work with on that wall, but 5.5 feet out from there so that we could get our hoops in the right place. Did the same thing over on the other side. And so now we need to set out a string that will define our front face for the entire wall. And that's going to extend well beyond where it needs to go. So I'm going to need a couple of helpers for that, right? So I need one person on this end of the string, one person on the other end of the string over there. And what we're going to need to do is just pull that string tight so that it lines up with our nail marks. We got to move our high-speed marker over here, right? So go back a couple of, keep going back. Perfect. All right. Now, so get that down pretty low, right? So you're right on the line there. And so now I'm going to come back in.
I'm going to pull a little bit on it.
Yep.
Hold on.
Yep.
It's not holding it. Can you pull a little bit?
Yep, pull, and you can even put it almost all the way down to the ground so you can hold it stable. There we go. Good?
You moved it a little. It's okay. You push it on. There. You're there.
Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing over here. And then we can just tie, if you want to tie your string on that side, then we'll pull it tight over here. Now we will have a line that we can lay out. We'll have a line that we can lay out our tires on, and our tires are all going to go to this side of it. Now, as we get started on that, an important thing with a foundation is that it be level. Do we have level ground right here? No, not so much, right? And again, in conventional construction, you're going to be going from a specific reference point and you're going to go off the same thing on the entire build, because this part of the wall isn't actually connected to the front part of the wall in a way that has to be exactly consistent, because we are working with these flexible greenhouse hoops. The thing that I have to do is simply find out what the lowest spot is. And so to do that, we're going to use what's called a site level. Is anybody familiar with a site level or a transit? Come on over. If you haven't used one of these before or set one up, come on over. You can learn how to do it. Get where you can see. So this is a site level or a transit. And the first thing that I want to do is set my tripod up and make sure that it's good and set into the ground so that if somebody bumps it, it's not going to mess up my level. Like that, right? You see how far it sank? And then I want to make sure that it's close to level here, right? So this can, which it's not great right now, but I'm going to screw that on in the bottom. I'm going to get that a little bit closer to level to begin with. And then we're going to go from there. So come over, get closer. You're not going to be, I need you to be able to see what's right here. So on this, right, you'll see that I've got 3 wheels on the bottom of this to help me level it. And right here, I've got a little water level, a little spirit level inside of that. And I need to get the dot in the middle of that spirit level inside of what's going on. And so the way that I'm going to do it, and then I need to make sure, eventually I've got to make sure that it's level the entire way around. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up so that the axis of this is in line with one of the wheels and in between as much as possible, right in between the other 2 wheels of the triangle. And then I'm going to go to the one where it's just the one wheel, and I'm going to turn that. Oh, see, that was already maxed out all the way, and it wasn't far enough. So I need to drop. Nope, I need to raise these 2, if that's going to be possible. Nope. Lower these 2. Sorry, I was outside of the tolerances of the adjustments. There we go. And then I want to adjust that so that it is in between, like right in between the line, but now it's going to be off this way, right? So then I'm going to come to these 2, and if I turn these, I'm going to either turn them both where I'm turning them both to the inside or both to the outside. I'm turning them opposite ways when I adjust these to get the direction back and forth this way. So if I turn them both to the inside, and so I'm going to turn them both to the outs. So this was like all the way tilted in one direction, right? So I'm having to do a little fudge. It's okay. It's okay. It's what I get for not setting stuff up in advance and like going with like real field conditions here. Doesn't always work out perfectly on the there we go. Okay, so now I've got that centered, but now because I've moved that, now I'm out of center here again. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna move this, maybe. Here it comes. Now that's back centered. Got to do a little more, so I'm going to the inside. And right now, if you guys come over here, get close, like really look, because you're not going to really be able to see it. So what I'm trying to do is that little dot right there in the middle, right? I'm trying to get that perfectly centered up, right? So now that's there. It's centered this way, but now I need to move back a little bit there, and that's pretty darn close. right? Now, once I get that way, now I'm gonna turn it and I'm gonna do it again, right? I'm gonna turn it so that it's level this way and not there, and I'm gonna do that a couple of times back and forth a little bit. So that I can get the whole thing so that no matter which way I turn it, it's going to be leveled up. And we are real close now. And there we go. Now pretty much whichever, well, I said that and then I messed it up. There we go. Now, as we shoot level, this is a perfectly level line as I look through it. And what I want to do is I'm going to come along this string line and I'm going to find the lowest place on that line, and then we're going to dig everything else out as we go to that lowest spot. Right? And so as I do that, I'm going to use a tape measure, right? And I'm just going to hold the tape measure. Always fun in the wind. I'm going to hold the tape measure. I'm just going to clip it to itself, kind of lock it in place, and then I'm going to hold it like right here, and I'm going to have someone look through. So somebody want to come hold the tape for me? Or you want to hold or look? All right. So I'm going to line up, and I'm going to start with, there's a little sight on top of this, and I'm going to look down the top of that and like line up the little triangle to where Ryan's hand is, right? And of course his hand is right in the middle of the level, right? Perfectly. And then once I get that lined up, I'm going to be able to look and I'm going to see yellow. Now in this case it's super blurry. That means the depth of focus isn't straight. And so I'm going to use this knob right here to adjust the depth of focus. And so as I'm coming back on that, got it in focus, and my crosshairs are dead on 51 inches right there. All right, so now I'm going to get him to move down a bit. Go middle over there. Go to what you think is the lowest spot, right? So there's a low spot right there, right? Let's look at that. So again, I'm going to line up the thing and then refocus. So this is reading 54 3/4. So is that lower or higher than where he was before? Lower. Yeah, it's lower, right? So it's backwards. It seems, because, right, so good, you guys got the trick question, right? So that is actually a lower spot. Now let's go all the way over to the other end there. Down there. And there we are at 57.5. So what's our lowest spot? 57.5. So 57.5 is going to be the number that we're going to try to get that entire line to as we go, right? So 57.5 is going to be our magic number. We can, write it down someplace so we don't forget it, right? And so we can always just shoot off of this and go 57.5 the whole way down. And then what we're going to do, yeah, I will double check, but I'm confident. Yep, that's 57 right there. So 57.5 is our number. And so as we go, we'll kind of just use a pick and a shovel and dig out about 2.5 feet wide there and get that nice and leveled out, because that will become the base for our tires as we go. And then once we start laying out those tires, we will go from there. So we've got our site leveled out to what was our low spot. Everything's packed down. So now we're going to start building the wall up. In this case, on our first row, we're just going to start here and we're going to lay the tires out, and we're going to go up from there. Typically, in a normal foundation, particularly if you're in an area that's prone to a lot of rainfall and water, and you're worried about water infiltration in the building, as you would lay out your first tire, right, you would line the bottom of that with plastic and poke a couple of holes in it so that if any water did get inside the wall, it would have a way to wick out, but that plastic would keep water from wicking up from the ground to come up into the building. How much of a concern do you think that is right here? Yeah, like not at all, right? So we don't have to worry about this here, but if you were in, you know, Louisiana and you were doing this for yourself, that would be a super, super important thing, is managing water that wants to come into the building. Again, not a big concern here. So what we're gonna do on our first row, now on layers after that, what we're gonna do is we'll actually come in with multiple pieces of cardboard and put those inside, because we're gonna stagger the tires like bricks as they come up. And this is gonna allow you to fill it with material without it falling in between the cracks between the tires. So that we'll have cardboard and the layers after that. Eventually this will deteriorate, but before it would matter, it'll be closed in with plaster or back buried on either side, so it's not gonna matter a whole lot. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start by just filling our tire with dirt. And so as we go with the dirt, and we'll deal with this, we've had quite a bit of rain lately, so we might not have to wet it down, but if it's too dry, you're not gonna be able to pack it, right? So that's almost on the dry side, right? I wanna be able to squeeze it and it really stays in a ball and doesn't crumble apart. Because if you want it so it'll stay in a nice ball, because if not, you're gonna be hitting this with a hammer in a little bit to pack it into place, and it'll just fall apart. So, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start shoveling this thing full of dirt. We'll be pulling from these little piles on the sides here in a little bit so that we can... you want me to step in it? Yep, sure thing. And then, so, if you watch what Ryan's doing, one of the first things that he's gonna do is he's gonna start packing it in, and he's gonna be kicking it into the sides of the tires. Each one of these tires will end up with about 5-gallon buckets worth of materials inside of it, and it'll end up weighing almost 300 pounds, right?
It's a lot of kicking.
Yeah, that's a lot of kicking.
So just keep going.
Yep. So, all right. Now you notice what he's doing is he's actually just kind of lifting the side a little bit and pushing the material in with his hands. The more you can do without having to literally pound it in with a hammer, which we will be doing in just a second, kind of the easier it is on you. Now you will notice that this is an enormous amount of, like, you're probably getting the visual. This is a lot of work by the time, right, all of those tires get pounded. And so that's good stuff. Serious CrossFit workout, right? Serious CrossFit workout. So after you get it to where it's pretty close, then we're going to switch over and get a sledgehammer. And again, I'm gonna... Now, as I switch to the sledgehammer, I want to be a little bit careful, because what I want to do is I'm going to start with the side of the hammer. I'm going to pack that in, slow down on materials for me for just a second. One of the things that I like to do with the sledgehammer is I want to be able to work from the center out. And so if I have too big a pile in the middle, I can't swing to the edges. So I'm going to start by swinging flat with my hammer here, and then I'm going to turn and pack it in. And I'm going to just work my way around the tire, starting by putting it in flat and then packing it in. Turning it flat and packing it in. And you notice this material is just disappearing. It's just disappearing into the tire. And so even after all that kicking that Ryan did, all right, ready for more. Now you notice it's starting to firm up a little bit. I'm sorry, was that sorry, did I miss a question?
No, you guys did your presentation up there when I first met you.
Yeah.
You guys were telling us about the compacted ones that you're going to be able to get, you know.
The bales, yeah.
He was like, well, now I understand why. Then I'm like, yeah, because to fill all that for that, I said, dude, we're going to be here a long time.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
said, yeah, if you built a bigger house, it's about a year's worth of work with all of us. And I'm like,
Yeah,
You can actually construct an entire Earthship that's bigger than this, maybe 1,800 square feet, and a month if you have 40 people.
yeah.
long.
So,
40 people.
1 month?
Yeah.
about 40
Every day
people
nonstop.
every day nonstop, yeah.
All right, let's back the tire.
All right. So, as you can see right now, I've done 2 rounds around the tire. I still have some squishy spots, right? So I'm going to look around the tire. I'm going to look for my spots that are a little soft, like there's one. And I'm just going to tune this up. And you can see that the sidewalls are actually starting to kind of bulge up a little bit. And that's what I want. You want to be careful as you're doing this, not to hit the bead of the tire, because you'll lose a bunch of the work that you just did. So having a fairly precise hammer swing is helpful. Okay, once I feel like it's pretty good and firm all the way around, all right, no squishy spots, then I'm going to come back with my level. Where'd my level go? There we go. Once I'm pretty sure the whole thing is pretty firm, I'm going to take my level and I want to make sure that it is level this way, right? So this is showing that I need a little bit more material over on that side, just a little bit. And I want to make sure that it's level this way, which is showing I need to bring this inside up, probably about, so I need to bring up this part of the tire right here. And I'm going to test that. I'm going to test that before I fill up the center entirely, because it still gives me room to work. All right, and I'm going to check again. Now I am level and level. So now this one's ready to go, and we can continue to just work out from here. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill up the center, tamp that down, and I can work my way out. I can do it a couple of ways here. I can either continue to lay out tires and do one at a time from here, or now I can shoot a new base level off of this tire with the transit and use that so I can actually work in multiple different spots on the wall at the same time. And as long as I have my tires laid out beforehand, I can do that. Make sense?